Keep your passion and purpose first. Never ever forget that or let go of that for anybody. And I always say be gracious and respect them, learn what you can, but keep your goals first in your mind and do not compromise who you are as a person.
The glitz and glam is the fame, but it's the work backstage that makes the game. I'm Crystel and Lakshmi Gowda, your host. Come with me behind the lens and watch their stories unfold. The pre-finals show was amazing. We got to see some beautiful creations and witness the performance of the Miss Runway Supermodel Australia models. Speaking of beautiful creations, the girls were given the opportunity to meet the mother and daughter duo, Lakshmi and Susan Gowda of Lakshmi Bee. Lakshmi is best known to create the structure of their pieces, while Susan is best known for the embroidery and patchwork, and together they are a powerhouse at sustainable couture. The girls are back in the studio for a workshop with Lakshmi Bee to talk about all things fashion and style, and together they'll be working on shifting their perspectives on fast fashion and sustainability.
We are a mother and daughter duo, and we're sustainable fashion designers with a mission to help the planet and people through sustainable fashion. We create most of our collections using pre-existing items. So basically we try to recycle everything that we can, basically using whatever already exists, whether it's natural or organic or even what some people might call junk. We use all of that and create basically beauty from it.
It's entirely made of scraps. So often, like when we're sewing, obviously a lot of scrap fabric just falls on the floor and there's not much you can do with it, but actually you can do a lot with it when you really think about it. So
Then the girls got a closer look into some of the pieces from their collection. Lakshmi and Susan showed how easy it was to take pre-loved pieces and redesign it into something new. Redesigning pieces could come from cutting and sewing different pieces together to painting your shoes a different color and much more. You can go as far as your imagination goes to recreate pieces that best represents you.
They look like yeah. Oh wow. Just remove it?
Yeah, so it flips up.
Oh yeah.
So if you do that, so that's the shoe.
Awesome.
And that was from an old necklace, just some super glue.
Which one was the necklace?
So the necklace was these. There was 5 of them, like on a string.
Wow.
And you made it into a bow. And you just stick it together and put a creative.
Creative.
So that's something.
I can't. Wow.
Being at fashion school and doing journalism, when you're in alignment with your vision and purpose, the right things will come towards you. And I had this particular tutor who asked us to do a social or global issue. And he was the only one who was doing that subject, so it was really interesting. I ended up in the class and I chose fur farming. And I'd never heard about sustainable fashion before, even though we were doing this. And it just focusing on what was happening in the fur farming industry, the way animals were getting abused, and just some of the dark things that were going behind the scenes in the industry, it completely opened my eyes. And the next thing, I had this incredible movie just come out of nowhere, and it's called The True Cost. And I definitely recommend how we got to this point today. I mean, vision. Vision, if you don't know what your purpose is, visualize. So for example, when I was in those times, I would think, Lakshmi, what do you want? Like, what would make you happy? And I would visualize myself in one of my dresses at an event. I would visualize a red carpet, meeting new people, laughing, and just spending time with a team that loved me, and I would imagine all these situations in my mind. And it sounds really bizarre, but everything I visualized back then has now happened. And I can't even count how many events we've been to, how many shows we've done, how many red carpets. And it's not even about that. It's about living in your truth and your purpose and being in a position where you can make a difference and you can use your gifts to help other people and be the voice for your community. And that's something, besides the meditating and the praying and the visualizing and the getting quiet, I feel like as humans, you know, we live in a physical world, so sometimes seeing something can really help us. And this isn't your typical vision board. So, you know, when most people think of vision boards, it's like a picture of a yacht or your favorite car or whatever, as an example. So it kind of looks a bit different from your usual vision board. So these are just random things that stuck out to us, and we just place them just randomly all over it. And now when we look at it, it's literally telling us a story about who we are inside as designers and where we want this company to go. And we've seen significant opportunities and really awesome people just coming into our life after doing this whole process. Passion and purpose first. Never ever forget that or let go of that for anybody. And I always say be gracious and respect them, learn what you can, but keep your goals first in your mind and do not compromise who you are as a person.
Basically, it's like, you know, whoever you are, it doesn't matter. Like, you may think what you do doesn't really have much of an impact, but in the truth is that whatever you do does have an impact on others. It impacts the planet as well. So it's good, like, to actually think about what you're doing, and especially like we've been saying in regards to clothing, just thinking a bit more about your own clothes and like what you can do with them, rather than even just thinking I can give it to a charity and I'm doing the right thing. So.
There is just so much substance in Lakshmi and Susan, so much knowledge and so much passion that flows into their work. We've had Lakshmi guests at Behind the Lens before, but I just had to get a closer look into them as a team. So we sat down with Lakshmi and Susan Gowda to talk all things Lakshmi Bee. Check it out. Just completed their workshop with Lakshmi and Susan Gowda talking about sustainable fashion. So how was that workshop?
Great.
It was awesome. It was really, really good. My mouth is like sore from like smiling and talking. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah. What was kind of something that really kept you going when you were presenting to the girls?
I think, even I was saying to Mum in the car, like when we were traveling, is that, you know, my main thing is, as well as sharing a story or some education about, you know, helping the planet, if we can just reach one person and inspire that one person to make a difference, that's the main thing. Just connecting to that person and to help the girls, like, wherever they need it, that they can take something home. Yeah.
And from there it just becomes a ripple, doesn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
And you talked about how you kind of struggled, like starting with the fashion industry. Obviously we've interviewed before in Behind the Lens, so I'd like to ask you, how did you take the courage to go back into the fashion industry?
It's just because I've obviously always loved it, and I've always just made my own clothes, and when Lakshmi was little I used to make all her clothes as well, and I've got other children and I've always made their clothes.
Yeah.
So it was actually when Lakshmi was in high school, she was starting to show real interest in sewing, and she actually wanted to make her own stuff. So she asked me to help her, and so I just helped her. I showed her how you make a dress and put it together. And also we she's very involved in art, and that's another thing that I really like to do. So in primary school she was always involved in fancy dress competitions and things like that. So I always helped her make the costumes.
Yeah.
I think it just all went from there. And when she showed that she really had a passion for it and she really wanted to pursue it as a career, I was all for it, you know, because
That's good.
it's so nice to have a child that actually likes the same thing, because it doesn't always happen, you know.
Yeah.
So it was just great that she likes the same things that I like. So yeah, I mean, obviously her dad wasn't so keen on pursuing fashion as a career, but I think over the years he's come around to it as well. But I've always just, like, you know, tried to encourage Lakshmi to keep on going with it, and to always keep being creative, even when she was doing other things like real estate, because her dad's in real estate. But I still, like, encourage her to keep doing the sewing and making her own outfits and wearing them when she goes to meetings or whatever she had to do, and you know.
Yeah, that sounds really good. You've got the best of both worlds.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You've got your dad who likes the corporate world,
like
and
grounding, stability, foundation, and
your mom's like the crazy.
Yeah,
Go flying with your own wings.
pretty much. Yeah.
That's a pretty good balance, because then you get to understand both perspectives,
Yes.
which I guess also helped you when you're talking to other people. You're able to relate to them.
Exactly.
You're not just relating to the people who are kind of trapped in this creativity. You're also relating to the people who are trying to juggle two at the same time,
Yes.
and trying to balance between
And
them.
there's so many people living in both of those worlds right now.
Yeah. For some, they like it. They like the balance.
Yeah.
Some they want one more than the other.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's completely up to them. Yeah. But how did you find that balance actually between the expectations that your dad had for you and the encouragement that your mom had for you to keep pursuing your creativity?
Absolutely. It's funny because when you were asking me, like, you know, what was my core thing that I wanted to project, it was actually being in that same place that helped me see the good in what was happening in my life. Rather than resisting it, I knew that God had a plan and purpose for my life. And I knew that everything happens to you for a reason. So let's just explore this. Let's go with Dad. Let's go to the real estate, learn what we can, even though I'd rather be on my sewing machine making fabulous dresses and painting shoes. Let's just do it, you know? And in that process, it gave me a very strong business foundation. And
good.
as you were mentioning before, it really helped me to learn how to meet and deal with certain types of clients, and more of a professional way of handling certain situations. And that skill has opened many doors for me. So I'm very, very grateful for that corporate background as well.
That's good. That's really good. You found there's similarities on how you can use your skills on the other.
Yes,
You know?
yeah.
And I'm sure you probably snuck your creativity into real
Always.
estate somehow.
I'd be sketching in the phone book, just some dresses on the side, rip it out, take it home.
And just in the workshop you had, you showed girls some of your pieces. And I'm interested to know why you chose those specific pieces.
Yeah, it's funny because I was thinking, you know, when we were dressing the contestants, we're going to need quite a lot of garments. What cohesive collection could we use? And then it like clicked, like the Desert Queen collection. It was what was the first collection that I presented in Sydney. And another collection that we worked on together years and years ago, with a whole nother backstory to that. But they both actually match each other really well. Same colors, same kind of style. And we thought, oh my goodness, like we can use these two collections. And the meaning behind them is a massive story of going on a journey to discover who you are and being that powerful person that you were made to be. And both of those collections have that message threaded through every single garment.
Oh yeah, that's good. And with that message, that actually really ties well with what these girls are trying to do with Miss Runway Supermodel Australia, kind of using it as a platform to jet set them or give them a little bit of a boost, because we're connecting everyone. Like we're connecting them to you, allowing them to learn some skills from you as well. And I heard a few like amazed like reactions when they were like, you just took a piece of chain for your necklace and changed your shoe. Yeah. And with your vision board, you have a lot of stuff on there Do you make one every year, like a different one?
It's funny because that particular vision board that we were talking about, the meditative vision board, it's something that I only learnt 2 years ago. And so it's funny because the person who taught me how to do it said do a new one, but she said write your goals on each part and a time frame when you want each thing to happen. But obviously, you know, with my crazy creative mind, I went all out and crazy and ended up doing my life's purpose on the board. So I'm like, I think this is gonna stay with me for most of my life, because I feel like our board literally illustrates our entire life's mission, and something we'll be working on until we leave the planet.
Yeah, and it's a massive vision board too. You have so much on there. Like, I could stand there for so long and just wondering what each one means, or what each one stands for Lakshmi and Susan. And Lakshmi Bee has been going on for years, and you mentioned that you've been doing it since high school or even earlier. And you've been doing shows since then. What made you, we'll just go back to it, to your roots, what made you go for sustainable fashion?
Yeah, it's, you know, as Mum was mentioning, you know, she's been recreating clothes before I was even born. So we've always been doing this the whole time, but it really clicked for me when I was studying journalism and I was doing a report on a global and social issue, and that began for me with fur farming. And by doing that investigative report, man, like the amount of stuff that came out of that report, like what was going on behind the scenes in the industry and what these people were doing, I was like, oh my goodness, like something needs to change. Like this is just so wrong in so many ways. And then that's when 2 and 2 came together and we thought, oh my goodness, like we had the keys in our closet the whole time.
We didn't really realize it.
That's amazing. And for, let's say, future maybe 5 or 10 years time, where do you see Lakshmi Bee?
I think it's funny because I always say, you know, you need to have the vision and keep the vision alive. For me, I feel like I usually try to focus on purpose more, because purpose will take you to where you're meant to be. I try not to put a cap on it, like, oh, we have to have this, this, and this. I feel like as a creative, you cap yourself in that way, whereas if you focus on purpose, the vision manifests itself into something better than what we could have ever imagined. I would definitely say I'd love to see this grow into a global company. We'd really love to reach people all over the world with this message, take it back to our home countries. I'm part Indian. I'd love to do something there with the ladies that are sewing. There's so much. We'd love to do more mission work as well. So of course with the clothing, but of course with the mission as well, to help in lots of different types of communities.
That would be good. That's really good. And I love how each piece you make has their own message behind it, and how you would just sew away, just be like, this is what this means and this is what it's going to stand for. So as we mentioned before, these girls are actually preparing their own outfit. What is some, like, a quick advice that you would give to them? Because obviously for many of them, maybe they don't have that kind of background or a family member who can teach them in sewing or teach them what to do. How do you push them out of the boundary of just create something that's not confined by the trends that are going on right now?
Absolutely. It always, especially with creativity, it comes back to what's in here. And when you can connect to yourself and just get quiet and think, what do I like? What makes me happy? What colors make me happy? Everything, when it comes from within, it always turns out perfectly, and you'll surprise yourself. If they, I would say, get quiet, a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, and just start sketching things that make you happy. Is there a type of jacket that you really like? Is there a color that you really like? You know, you can visit your local vintage store and see if you can find that item and pair it with other things. You can get fabric paints, shoe paints, and actually paint on top of the jacket into the color that you want. Those would be some really simple steps that they could start with.
Yeah, I'm sure that when they watch back to this, they'll go and take that in as much as they could. And one final question would be, what is something, a saying or a quote that you guys stand for individually or as partners?
That's a hard question.
maybe it was something that possibly when Lakshmi became coming out as I want to be creative in this way, I wanted to pursue, what was the something that you were saying to yourself?
Well, like what she said, it goes back to purpose. I think you'll know deep inside yourself what your actual purpose is if you really try to focus in on that and just, you know, get that sort of vision and then just try to move towards that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think when you asked the question, I was thinking, I think it's more of a word for me, and the word is purpose, because when you tap into purpose, everything else just sorts itself out. You know, when you tap into purpose and you know purpose, you automatically, you have compassion, you've got integrity, you've got service, all of these things start coming out of you, because it's like, oh my gosh, now I know why my body was put here and what I'm supposed to do in the earth.
Actually, it reminds me of a quote from the Bible that says, without a vision, the people perish. So it basically means if you don't have a purpose or you don't have a vision, you kind of perish, not in a physical way, but more in a mental way.
Yeah.
That you won't live out what your real life's calling is.
Yeah, and it can become really draining that way.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's when people kind of go back where you ask them, let's say there was a video that I was actually watching where he was like visit a retirement village and ask the people how they feel about their life, and for many of them it's regret. And I guess that's what it ties into, because they didn't tap into what their heart wanted. They just lived out what everyone else wanted them to be.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, even for me, because obviously I'm a lot older, and you know, when I was a kid and I wanted to do this, it wasn't a done thing, it wasn't seen as a proper career, and so I was distracted away from it. But I've always had the feeling that I have to sort of come back to it. And it's like such a blessing, like I said, that Lakshmi also has the same kind of visions as I have. And we can kind of work together. And even though I'm older, it doesn't matter if you're older, you can start at any time in life pursuing your real purpose.
It's funny, purpose, because it's like one of my passions is to help people realize their purpose, because when we all know our purpose, we all change the world. And I was just thinking as Mum was speaking, is even by you realizing your purpose, you'll awaken that in others. And she never presented fashion to me like, oh, you need to do that. It was only by observing me that she came out of the corners like, oh, okay,
this is what you're interested in.
But she said nothing before that. So it's amazing, you know.
I basically just encourage her to be creative, like artistic, like, you know, to do drawings, paintings, or, you know, piece together bits of scraps or whatever she wanted to do. But it was never like saying, you know, why don't you do fashion? I didn't really say anything about that.
And even if it's not your mum, like for me it'll be someone else. You know, when you tap into purpose, the right person will come in and help you build the empire.
Just when you figure what your purpose is, everyone just comes into play.
Meeting you guys
meeting you from us as well. Just walking, I'll never forget that ball that we went to.
I always remember
it's an iconic moment. It was. And it kind of, I relate to it so much, because for my mom and I were also a mother and daughter duo. And this whole purpose thing is kind of what Miss Runway Supermodel Australia revolves around. And we love what you're doing, because it means that you're not just making any kind of clothing that you're just going to toss to someone and be like, if you like it, buy it. It has a meaning behind it, and that's what people buy. And that's what that's what people are always attracted to. They're attracted to the story.
Exactly.
That's true.
Well, thank you guys so much for your time. I'm sure the girls learned so much from your workshop, because not only did you cover the fashion industry, but you also covered your backstory that makes you who you are today, and even more in the future. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. It's such a blessing to be here.
Very good opportunity for us as well.
And I love what you guys are doing. Like, keep going. It's helping so many people.
It's very good.
Wonderful. Thank you. It was fantastic getting to speak to Lakshmi and Susan together. I definitely felt the love and connection they had as a mother and daughter, and it left me in awe of their chemistry. Let's have a run through on their collection at the pre-finals. From listening to their personal stories, their lessons, and their triumphs, I'm sure the girls were inspired by how Lakshmi and Susan approached their dreams, how they manifested their desires, and how they turned it into reality. Reaching for your dreams is no easy feat, and all of these workshops aim to provide the girls with new perspectives to assist them in achieving the best they can be. After seeing and showcasing the sustainable couture of Lakshmi Bee, they proved to us again that real fashion is timeless. I'll see you all on the next one. We are practicing social distancing and we hope that you are too. Make sure that you are practicing good hygiene and taking care of your health and well-being. We hope that you are all staying positive during this time and we hope that you all stay safe. For the safety of our staff and our models, we have converted all of the activities of this program online. And from the advice of the Australian government, we are changing the date of the Winterland finals of Miss Runway Supermodel Australia 2020, with further details to be announced once they are confirmed.